So how can you these days lead yourself by using your superpowers, your growth mindset, and take new challenges and learn? And I have with me Malcolm, who will guide us through this as a pro on this area. And I also have a colleague who is Simon Harmark, who's today work with automation at ICA. And I need to say right now, because you have been at ICA for 23 years, and I'm always very interested in meeting you because you have such a driving force of doing new things and always with the compass about what is the right feeling in your stomach, but also what will create great value for ICA. And I think that's really interesting. So when you are constantly developing yourself and also driving in new areas, I got to wonder about what Malcolm often talk about, superpowers. What are your superpower?
From the beginning, it is about curiosity, to learn new things, and to ask questions. That's where really it starts, and from there, to have the more of the courage to really ask the questions and to challenge the status quo and to see how can we do things differently. And, as an effect of that, sometimes it's not stop stairs. It's really, also the compassion of going forward or the consistency, to continue ask those questions or move, how can we move the boundaries? And I think that's really the three key pillars that really leads to more of a collaborative way of working together with others, because then you need to move on and to find how do we do this and what type of people or skills need to be within this. If we're going to move it in this direction, how do we really do it? And that's also then connects to the networking part. So I think that's a couple of capabilities or superpowers, as you said, that is the key for me, right?
Yeah, and then I understand that you get really curious about this. So
absolutely. Yeah,
I think you will have some questions for him about his superpower.
It's really nice to meet you, Simon. And I've heard a lot about you, but I haven't met you. So that now that we're here together, it's great to meet you and actually hear from you what you think your superpower is.
Yeah.
And I love that you talk about curiosity, being your superpower, because as a coach and someone who's constantly coaching people, I'm often telling my coaching clients when they're stressed and stuck in a place they don't want to be, to use the state of curiosity to free themselves from worry and concern, to actually go out of trying to be the expert and go into that learner position of being curious. It's such a powerful state to use. So it's fantastic that you have it as a superpower. But what I'm really curious about now is this how you've always been? Have you always had this curiosity in your life? Does it show up in your private life as well as your working life? I'm really curious myself to know about that.
Yeah, I would say that. Yeah. That is, that's a driving force for me. To learn new things. I have, when it starts to become too stable, or what's going to happen tomorrow,
mm-hmm.
Then it's time to move on, or to see how can we do things differently, how can we, move the boundaries in a way within the area of working right now, or to learn new things.
Really, really interesting. So in your personal life, do you have a hobby or something that you are constantly trying to push forward on?
I'm more into, I have a large family.
Yeah.
So my family is really important for me to do things. But also from a hobby perspective, that is really playing computer games. And back in the days when I was younger, it was role-playing. So again, exploring creative, thinking, and so I think it has been a little bit of a core.
So I think it's really interesting that you mentioned computer games as one of the things that you put your curiosity into, because one of the things that I see about gaming culture and gaming is that you have this ability to always go to the next level and be curious about what takes you to the next level. And, people who are gamers are constantly trying to hack the systems to see, how can I get to the next level? Do I need to get the magic sword or whatever to actually get there? So it's really interesting to see that crossover between your personal and professional life that this superpower of curiosity is active in all areas of your life.
Yeah.
And, for me, my superpower is determination. I can set goals and really push forward hard on them to make them happen. So we have great experiences like making today happen or whatever it is. And I see that in my personal life, a really simple example is like I am not a person who's naturally motivated to exercise. And in January, I realized I hadn't exercised for basically the whole month. So I thought I really need to turn the determination engine on. So I just one night signed up for the Stockholm Marathon.
Oh.
I've never run a marathon. I just went online, registered, spent 1,000 krona, registered, and then I'm going to discover what it takes to do the marathon. But now that I've got this determination that in June I'm going to run 42 kilometres, I'm out every rainy afternoon running, looking. So I really see how, my professional and personal life, determination plays a big role. That's superpowers everywhere. And, it's really, really connected. And I think it's really good for people who are listening to look at their superpowers and see how they're using it both at work but also at home and in their personal life to see how they're creating their life so they can have the experiences that they want to have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To find the right level. But what happens? Now I get curious. What happens when the superpowers becomes too much?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because it can happen. I know we have been talking about that before. Like when you are very driving and doing new stuff, sometimes it gets not that comfortable for other people, and in the collaboration you talk about.
That's right.
So can't we talk about that? What happens when the superpower gets too much?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So actually there's a great tool for exploring what happens when a superpower becomes too much, which is Daniel Hoffman's Core Quadrant Assessment tool. And this is actually one of the other videos that's on this platform, and I encourage people to see that. And would you be willing for me to coach you through that quadrant now? Maybe we can explore a little bit for you what actually happens. Would that be okay?
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So, the first square of the quadrant is the core quality, and we know for you that is curiosity.
Yeah.
And the second square of the quadrant is pitfall. And the pitfall is what happens when your superpower becomes too much and starts to have a negative effect instead of a positive effect. So I would like you to now put yourself in that pitfall square, and I'd like to know what happens when curiosity becomes too much. What do you see? What feedback do you get? What do you experience?
Yeah, I definitely experience it. And I think, it's a little bit different things. One thing is that you can be of, what are you doing here?
You mean you go in places you're not invited to be?
Exactly.
Okay, yeah. So sometimes you're stepping inside other people's circle and asking questions when you're not actually been invited into the circle.
That's correct.
Yeah?
That's correct.
Yeah.
But also the questions, when you start asking the questions, it feels like, also not only the insecurity, but, normally people don't do that.
Yeah.
So now something is going to happen. So it's also,
So maybe people feel a little bit interrogated?
And also about, is this something that is going to happen now when someone come in here? So it's triggered by, probably what you have in your backpack, that when this has happened before, something has happened, that is not that good.
Yeah. So what I want to know is, what do people say to you that lets you know that you crossed the line? What do they say? What's their body language? What do you experience that tells you you've stepped into your pitfall, that you've gone too far with this core quality?
I would say it's not one way of doing it. It could be the expression in the body language.
Yeah.
It could be that those meetings or the priorities or not try to avoid in a way. It could be different things. It can really.
Yeah.
And in some cases, it's more of a political, you go into that area and you say, now you're not supposed to do this. This comes from the higher hierarchy in a way. So that's also,
Now, because curiosity and growth are one of my highest values, I've experienced this exact same thing.
Yeah, me too.
And I get told I've been told many, many times when I was working in companies, stay in your lane.
Yeah.
Stop going out like, thank you, but no thank you.
Yep.
So at a certain point, that curiosity becomes a boundary issue for other people. And even though for you it's natural and it enables you to, experience life at a more rich and deep level, for other people it's a boundary issue.
Yeah.
And they can find it very confronting. And
agree with
the other thing that comes with that, which is just an insight for you, is that sometimes when, in any kind of teamwork or company where there's hierarchy, people are managing their status. They need to know where they fit on the ladder, how they fit inside this tribe of people, how their contribution is being valued or not valued. So everybody at work is always doing spending a certain percentage of their computing power doing status management. Am I doing okay? Am I up? Am I down? Is things okay? And when someone like you or me steps in and starts questioning things, that can feel like a really big infringement on their status. Like, why are you questioning me? I know what I'm doing. Why are you in my space? So that's just another piece of feedback about how that pitfall can be experienced by other people. But the square under pitfall is challenge. So the challenge to you is to find the balancing power of curiosity. So for me with determination, my determination, the pitfall of my determination is people can find me very pushy and very dominating because I want to push projects forward at my speed, not at their speed. And then that can be almost like at the level of like micro-bullying. It's like,
Yep.
Why haven't you done this?
Yep.
It's like, well,
Yep.
You're actually not the priority, Malcolm.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I want my thing to be the priority and I'm pushing forward. So that's my pitfall. And the challenge that I need to do, the quality that I need to bring in is patience. I need to be able to be patient enough and balance my determination with patience and realize that where I fit in the grand scheme of things. But for you, what would be the balancing power? The challenge for you is to create a balancing power now for that curiosity. So curiosity can be used appropriately and balanced with something else. So what other quality would you like to bring in?
I would say to build trust. Because it's really to understand why this is, why are you curious about these things? And to build the trust that this is not something that is, coming from the side to take your job or getting to be something that is doing things harder for you or anything like that. But to build the trust that this is for pure, how can we move this forward?
Yeah. Fantastic. It's an amazing quality to have. And, when you're trusting your colleagues to do their part really, really well, then you can focus your curiosity back into your role and make sure you're elevating your role to its maximum point. So you chose the, absolutely perfect balancing power for curiosity, trust. It's a fantastic balancer. So then the last quadrant is allergy, which is what would happen if your trust became too much. If you trusted too much and used that, and that became overwhelming, what would happen then? Trust would turn into...
Let me think about that for a second. It is probably then it feels like not a little bit faked in that case. If you try to say, do you really mean it?
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking of right now.
Yeah.
Like that is too much of why no, this is something not really
Yeah, I understand what you mean.
I don't find the word of it, but understand
maybe
what I mean?
inauthentic or
right.
So you'd become inauthentic to the people around you because they know you as a certain person and you wouldn't. This is a really fantastic tool for everybody to use so they can see how can I use this superpower really appropriately so it becomes a resource to the people around me at ICA and not a problem. And that's what it's really about. And this is something that can really help you. It's one of the best self-coaching tools that I've come across. I use it all the time with my coaching clients and I recommend it to people all the time because it's so simple to use and it's so insightful.
Yeah, I agree. But I am also curious about, ICA, and a
Yeah.
lot of our colleagues. And if they want to develop themselves, and if they want to go in the same new areas as you have done for 23 years, what can you give them for kind of tips? How can they think? How can they act?
In some way, it's not about too much thinking. It's just doing.
Yeah.
That's really it. I would say, don't think too much. Just do it.
Let the entrepreneur go with you, like
That's
our
right. That's
values.
right. That's right. And then, of course, it's going to be some hits. It's going to be some, errors happening. But if you have an environment that is around you, that you can feel comfortable, you have your colleagues around that you can get energy, or your family, you have somewhere to bring this energy again. And it's better to just do it.
Yeah. I actually heard a podcast the other day with an American entrepreneur, and this American entrepreneur had started like 5 successful companies in his 20s. And the interviewer said, "How did you do this?" And he said, "Well, I actually realized experience takes too long." And I just thought that was a fantastic quote for modern working life, because the rate of change that we're experiencing in our working lives and our lives is, faster rate than any other human in history's ever had to deal with. And so the fact that you have this superpower of curiosity is actually the exact superpower we all need to take on if we're going to be lifelong learners and be super engaged and understand that we're going to have to deal with a lot of uncertainty as we move forward. And, as you said, this curiosity now, we don't have time to be experts. Experience takes too long. So what we need to do is try, get feedback, adjust. Try, get feedback, and adjust.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
your superpower is really putting you in a place where it's going to become even more valuable to the people around you at ICA and take you even further.
Yeah, and you gave me a quote last time we met, and you said my eager to have a success is bigger than my that I'm afraid of failures.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so I think that's also connect with this, because you need to be good enough for now, safe enough to try, and then you always pull yourself learning and test and try new things.
Yeah.
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 Interesting.
I really love that. I really love that quote. Good enough for now.
Safe enough to try.
Wow, I love that.
Yeah, because then you can always test and try and start doing things, and I think you're an expert on that.
Yeah. Thank you.
So it will be really nice. So thank you for sharing your experience and also how you have developed at ICA. Simon, I'm very grateful for that. And thanks, Malcolm, for the coaching.
Thanks for letting me be here. It's great.
Yeah,
Thank you.
it's great.
Thank you.